the fuck you get in here? And he's like, cat got your tongue, and nothing to say. He goes, fuck off then.
Wow.
So
you didn't get the autograph.
Did you rip up the glossy picture after that?
Welcome back to the Unrestricted. Jeff Vexler, Richard Carnahan, the Bulldog, and Silent Bob on the ones and twos. Special episode this week. You know, you and I, Richard, this summer, particularly in the downtime for the NBA and the downtime for the NFL, we've done a lot of golf.
we have.
And the golf world has been flipped kind of on its ear, so it's been important for us to talk about it. And the ping pong ball keeps getting batted back and forth. Every time I think the PGA Tour has the momentum, Liv strikes back. And just this week, you see 6 players defect from the PGA Tour to the Liv Tour. So Liv strikes again, and they're playing a big tournament this week in Boston, their biggest tournament of the year so far, 48-man field. And I felt like it was necessary for us to have a special unrestricted podcast.
We needed to bring in an SME.
What's an SME?
Subject matter expert.
Oh, there you go. And for that, we brought in Mitchell Meisner. For those who don't know Mitchell Meisner, Mitchell is 26. You turned 27 yet? 26. 26-year-old San Antonian, Alamo Heights mule, dropping cookies. And just graduated to the Korn Ferry Tour.
Congratulations.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
To give a titch of background, Mitchell went to Rice after Alamo Heights.
So he got a better SAT score than you and I combined.
That's correct. But my mother, my sister and my dad both went there, so I get a little bit of owl love. Yeah.
Shout out.
I get a little bit. After Rice, went to PGA Tour Latin America, which has been one of the things that the PGA Tour has done to try to help younger players make their way towards the tour. In your 3rd season,
Yes.
correct? Was just named Player of the Year of the PGA Tour Latino America.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Muy bien.
And on the strength of that, you get to go play the Korn Ferry. Mitchell, this is as cool as it gets. And I imagine everything that's going on in the golf world in terms of the PGA Tour beefing up its rules for the coming seasons and Live Tour maybe forcing that hand into that. I imagine you have been as plugged in to things as anybody on this planet.
Absolutely. The Liv has definitely forced the hand of the PGA Tour, and there's a lot more money in professional golf right now than there ever has been in developmental tours such as Latin and Korn Ferry, as well as now on the PGA Tour. And it's interesting as someone who's tried to move up tours from Latin to Korn Ferry to PGA to see all this more money kind of start to
It's exciting.
be spread about, and it's awesome.
I'm excited for you.
I'm excited as well. I mean,
it's a great time to be a professional golfer. Figuring out your path.
Absolutely, and it sounds like there's gonna be a lot of options coming, and good golf definitely allows those options, and I'm hoping to continue to keep playing well.
Just keep your putter hot.
That's the plan.
Okay, so I'll give you a little something that I know that you don't know about
you're gonna
Mitch.
drop me a nugget?
Yeah. So Mitchell's a right-handed golfer, swings right-handed. Are you a right-handed or left-handed human being?
Right-handed. Always done everything righty.
Okay. Your penmanship is with your right hand.
Right hand, throw right hand.
Buddy putt southpaw.
Putt
Sure
southpaw.
You know I like that because he disengaged the brain.
Is that what you think it is?
I don't know, Mitchell. What do you
I
think?
mean, this is great. I
100%.
didn't know we
100%
had
it
Dr. Bob Rotella over here
I shoot
masquerading
pool, I
as the
shoot
Bulldog.
pool left-handed, except for all my hammer breaks.
But do you shoot it well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, we can all do it with the other hand. It's just whether it's worth the shit.
Are you talking about pool or something else, bud?
Now, let me ask you a question, Richard. Are you left eye dominant?
Boy, I don't know. I think
Okay.
I'm cross-eyed
Mitchell,
dominant.
are you left eye dominant?
Left eye dominant.
So
Yeah.
do that makes
do you
sense.
shoot left-handed?
I don't. I shoot righty.
He's
Wow,
an
that's-
enigma
I'm telling you.
wrapped up.
That
Like
has to
question.
be
That's because that's how I learned. My dad and
Right.
my grandfather, they're both right eye dominant. So they taught me to shoot righty, and I was 4 or 5, so I did what they told me to do.
So my grandfather fired a shotgun and a rifle, southpaw, but was right eye dominant.
Okay.
and was a tournament skeet and trap shooter.
Really?
Which makes absolutely no sense because you shouldn't be able to shoot a shotgun or a rifle with the wrong eye.
Correct.
But he was.
Okay.
So go figure. And meanwhile, he puts the eyeballs out of it.
Yeah?
RC. Oh, that's kind of his thing. Yeah.
So he'd get people in the yard and
Oh, yeah.
have
Yeah,
putting contests.
I can be a little hustler. Hey, I'll putt lefty and give you a chance.
I arm wrestle left-handed.
So, I don't want to put you on the spot, but like, is Greg Norman texting you this morning?
I haven't gotten any texts, no emails from Greg.
Mitchell, do you have an agent?
I do have an agent, yes, sir.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah, it's.
I was going to give you my resume.
It's curious. The agency part of this whole new atmosphere of golf is interesting because a guy like Bryson or whomever who are making 150 million, I would love to know what kind of cut the agents are making because normally it's 10, 15 to 20%. I can't imagine they're making 15, 20% of 150 million.
Oh, I think they are,
You do?
Mitchell.
Okay.
I think they are. Have you seen the way these agents are walking around in major sports nowadays?
I know.
I mean, now they're owning franchises. Now they're running the New York Knicks. Like, they're making their money on these contracts.
It's outrageous, and I don't know. It's the money in golf right now is crazy.
But it's fair. And maybe for the first time ever, it seems like it's fair. If we rewind to the podcast prior, we were talking about what was going to happen for players such as yourself coming up in 22-23. Can you explain to me what that $5,000 stipend might mean for a guy like you?
So I got a lot of texts that day, and I don't think that I actually fall into that category. So the wording is poor in the email and the notice. It says Korn Ferry exempt players, but those are guys that are coming from the Korn Ferry Tour to the PGA Tour. They're getting the $500,000. It's basically a loan. It's an upfront loan to start the year. And if you look at how much guys on the PGA Tour make these years, these days, it's a lot of guys don't actually make less than $500,000. So this $500,000 is just to help start the year and help them with expenses up front. But in the end, I don't think the PGA Tour is really going to dole out a whole lot of money. I think there are, other cases where guys don't play well and have really bad years. I know like Michael Kim and Max Homa, like guys who are really good golfers have had years where they miss 18 cuts in a row.
There's the Max Homa story of him making $11,000 in a calendar year.
Exactly.
Because his expenses were so high.
There are definitely stories like that, but for the most part, if you have a decent PGA Tour year, you're going to make upwards of 500 to $1 million.
For sure. But I love that the floor has been raised,
Correct.
right?
Correct. It's nice.
Like,
It's almost like a salary, but it's,
but not quite, right? And look, if you were an NFL player and you had to worry about flying yourself to the game and hiring your own coach and your own weightlifting coach and your own nutritionist and all of these things that the Dallas Cowboys already pay for because you're on the football team, and you had to worry about losing money every damn Sunday that you played, it would be much less attractive.
absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
So you said it's a loan. Let's say you go out there and they give you the 500 and you play horrible. Do you have to pay it back?
No. Well, so you're right. It's more of a floor than it is a loan. I think that the reason I think of it as a loan because a lot of guys will make upwards of 500 to $1 million, and that money will just be deducted from their earnings at the end of the year. So they'll still make $1 million.
So instead of getting that real big cardboard check, you get a smaller check?
Correct. A few smaller checks throughout the year.
Yeah.
So with Live coming up the way it has, and again, I can't believe how much this has ping-ponged back and forth over the last couple of months. I mean, originally I thought Live was fly by night, be gone before I could say boo. Then I was like, wait a minute. They actually have something here. I like this team. The idea of the team golf concept is something I'm always a fan of. And most players come through the high school and the collegiate ranks familiar with team golf, so we all kind of love it.
Right.
And then the money obviously starts coming. And it's like, holy cow, they have a chance at this thing. And then it becomes, how do they coexist? And the PGA Tour steps its foot down and says, well, that's not how it's going to happen. We're going to raise our floors and make the PGA Tour so much more attractive so that we don't lose players, especially young talent, to the Live Tour, and we're going to squash them. We'll will strangle them before they get their first breath. And then this week, Cam Smith goes, Mark Leishman goes, Joaquin Niemann goes, Harold Varner goes, and 2 other players also leave. And all of a sudden, Liv has this tournament this weekend in Boston, and it seems like they have the momentum as the PGA Tour season is now over. Where are you? Are you watching all of this? The Korn Ferry Tour Championship is going on. I mean, you got to be just monitoring every second of this.
It's tough for me because,
he still has to practice.
Well, that's true.
Life-changing money is very, the thought of that is very entertaining. If Greg were to call me and say, I'm going to give you, $20 million, $50 million, it's hard to not even give that a thought because you can live financially independent for the rest of your life. You can do a lot of really good things with, $20, $50 million. You invest it well, you can start a foundation. There are a lot of really good things you can do. The other aspect of that is the golf really entertaining to be a part of and to watch? And we know Abe Answer, who is a member at Oak Hills, and from talking to him, it does sound very entertaining. The team aspect, I think, is interesting.
It's
it really
cool.
is. I think it takes you back to college and high school days where, it's not just on you to play golf, and it gets a little lonely just being, an independent contractor and playing golf for yourself, and being on a team is fun. It's, what everyone really wants to do as you're going up the high school and college ranks. And that aspect of the golf is very entertaining for me to look at. But looking at the champions and looking at, the 54-hole shotgun, there are these intricacies that aren't, ironed out yet. And it will be interesting to see the viewership this week with no PGA Tour going on. Korn Ferry Tour might draw, some interest for me just because my brother's on the Korn Ferry Tour. Sure. It'll be interesting to see who graduates.
And a hardcore guy like me would watch it too.
It's fun, if you're a golf fan, Korn Ferry Tour is probably more interesting to watch rather than the Live. But for maybe the common fan, they might want to watch Bryson DeChambeau or Brooks or Dustin. Or whomever at in Boston.
It's going to get real interesting.
It'll be really interesting to see what the numbers on the viewership is this week versus some of the weeks prior.
But they still don't have a TV contract, so you have to download the
YouTube TV or
YouTube TV, Facebook, and their website.
So, Mitch, what's the incentive if you're guaranteed this money to go out and grind?
There's none. In my opinion.
Well, and that's coming from
that's
the guy that does
blatantly honest.
There's
Thank
none.
you for that.
I mean, there is, and there are things that I am not fully, abreast to with these whole contracts and whatnot. I'm still unsure if the money that you make comes out of the guaranteed money. I know there have been rumors of that, and maybe some contracts are built different than others. But let's say that is the case. Let's say you win a tournament, you win $4 million. But you're guaranteed 50, and your 50 is your ceiling. To me, that's not interesting at all.
Yeah,
It's not fun to play golf when it doesn't matter. I don't like to go out and just play golf. I like to have a little bit of money on the line, whatever it might be. If I'm playing,
you're that guy.
I'm that guy. I have to have
That's
$5 on the line.
Golfer,
exactly. We're all degenerate gamblers, and
I won $6 last Saturday.
There you go.
And I bet you felt damn good about
You
it.
probably felt awesome.
Yeah, well, the 92 didn't feel too good, but that $6 almost bought me a can of Copenhagen.
Yeah,
There you go. It's just an interesting, and it's interesting to kind of see Abe out at Oak Hills, and he is still grinding, and I think he still
grinding.
He still wants to become better, and but for some of these guys like Cameron Chingali and Harold Varner, and some of these guys that don't have any, that won't get into the majors next year, it'll be really interesting to see what their game does and if it starts to kind of plateau and level off, or if they continue to get better, because without world ranking points and whatnot, it's going to be really hard for them to actually get better and to get
what's
into some
their
of these
incentive?
events. I really don't think there is any.
right. If you can't make the Ryder Cup team, if you are disqualified from the majors because your world ranking points aren't high enough, what is the incentive?
You're playing 12 to 15 exhibitions a year, and
but the money's awesome.
The money's
and you can
awesome.
cry yourself to sleep at night that you don't have a chance to win the U.S. Open and dry your tears, Mitchell, with $100 bills.
Like Pat Perez.
You're not wrong. You're not wrong. I mean, some of these guys on the tour, And no offense to them, they are great golfers and they've had awesome careers, but the draw of some of these guys on the LIV right now is interesting to me why they would want to recruit some of these guys. And maybe they're just limited in who they can, but, you know, Pat Perez and Phil and some of these guys who their careers have kind of passed by. It's, you know, it'll be interesting to see if they start to replace them or if they keep them along for the ride.
Well, that's the only way LIV survives is you can't live on Henrik Stenson.
Right.
That doesn't work. That's a person at the end of his career, or Pat Perez, or Phil Mickelson, even though Phil is, you know, the second biggest name in all of golf. You can't survive like that forever. You have to start attracting young talent. And they have begun to make inroads into attracting high-level collegiates to go to LIV. And guys like you, Mitch, and your brother Mac have got to be squarely on their radar if they wish to survive long term, because eventually Henrik Stenson, frankly, is just too old to play and he's no longer relevant for the same reason that all of us don't watch the PGA Tour champions all of the time. It's just not as good. And you see the quotes that are coming out. I mean, Gary Player with the most Gary Player quote of all time. He's like, he says, basically these guys are afraid of failure. They don't trust themselves to go out there and work for it and succeed. And it's like, of course that's Gary Player. Because, like, you know, he's Mr. 2000 sit-ups before he takes a shit in the morning. Right? That's just who he is.
He still poses nude for Sports Illustrated.
And Freddie Couples, you know, says, quote, to all my friends, this was in response to Cam Smith saying, hey, now I'm going to have more time to be with my Aussie friends, you know, back home, and I won't miss weddings and birthdays. Freddie Couples says, to all my friends who I missed birthdays and weddings, so sorry. I was busy earning a living on the PGA Tour, and in my line of work, the goal is to earn your way to work the weekends. And by weekends, I mean 72 holes. Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah, his other quote, all these guys think they're changing the game. To me, it's comical. It's really comical to have music on every tee and have people drinking beers and think that's cool. I never thought the cast and crew that would do that would be the guys doing it.
Yeah.
They are getting lit by some of their elder statesmen, and maybe rightly so. I mean, Davis Love has been adamant, but of course, Davis is President's Cup captain. He has a real dog in the fight.
Well, I wonder if when Freddie got divorced and it was that astronomical number, if the Saudis were like, hey, man, you can work that off. You can work that off in 2 years in 36 events. He's like, can I come back? See, and to me, that's always been what's going to happen, because I don't think they're going to live harmoniously side by side.
Live
Hard
in
to
PGA Tour?
imagine.
Right.
No chance.
Hard to imagine.
I think that Jay Monahan and the PGA Tour have, you know, put their foot down and said we're not going to live harmoniously, and I think there was an opportunity to do that early on when, you know,
but they
Liv
wouldn't talk to
approached.
each other.
Exactly.
Oh, quick question. This is all hypothetical. If it wasn't Greg Norman and if all the heels in golf didn't go over, would this be different?
I think Greg has, you know, a bone to pick with PGA Tour, and I think that he gets some weird satisfaction out of every single guy that defects, and
Oh,
He
yeah.
always has.
He's a sicko, man.
and you know, more power to him. I know that, you know, he had the idea for the WGCs long time ago,
Yes,
and
he did.
you know, PGA Tour kind of took that out from under him, and you know, he is definitely kind of bitter, and you know, his career kind of has some holes in it that he would probably like to fill, and
Make a couple putts. and-
yeah.
In your head, Mitchell, and you don't have to tell me the number, but do you have a number where it's like,
That was going to be my
"Man,
first question.
That is just too much money for me to turn down.
I've definitely thought about it.
Okay. You have considered it.
Yes, but it's also it's hard to really consider because I just came off the PGA Tour Latin America.
Sure.
I don't think that I am on their forefront right now. If I have a really good year on Korn Ferry next year, maybe it would become, you know, more of an opportunity and something to think about. But my thought is it would have to be a number that I don't think that I could make on the PGA Tour, and I trust my game, and I think that I at the top of my game can make a good living and win tournaments on the PGA Tour.
That's where I don't understand Cam Smith. Okay. And I really want to concentrate today's, you know, time that we have with Mitchell on Mitchell, but Cam Smith's decision doesn't make sense to me. He wins a $15 million event. He probably doubles that afterwards in endorsements to make this a somewhere around $40 to $50 million year for him. Don't you think that seems
absolutely
more or less accurate?
So just getting into business with some of the agencies and agents in the contracts, it's the incentives once you win and once you reach certain ranking numbers and once you win majors, like the added bonuses is outrageous.
Endorsements.
It's outrageous.
Investment opportunities,
and
etc.
So you win a major for, $2.5 million, it probably becomes a $7.5–10 million win.
Yep.
Just because of everything else.
I mean, they called Hideki Matsuyama's win at the Masters last spring, 16 months ago, a $1 billion win for him with what it could make him in Asia. I mean, $1 billion for a win.
It's outrageous.
Yes, it is. So I'm with you, and I think that's a very smart, for a young man, it's a really smart way to look at it. Is that guaranteed money? Does it far exceed what I could expect to earn in my PGA Tour career? I think that's the proper way to look at it. And, you certainly take that phone call, right?
Absolutely.
You listen.
I think that a lot of one thing that maybe some people haven't talked about is some of the injury issues that some of these players have had. And I think that for a guy like Bryson who started to have some issues, and Brooks and DJ and
even Abe
had back issues.
They just swing too hard, man.
Well,
some
there's
of them
there's a finite time that you can really go at it. The way some of these guys go at it. I mean, Jason Day has been, kind of case in point on that.
He's had a lot of back issues. I'm surprised he wouldn't entertain it, and I know he's been pretty loyal to the PGA Tour.
I thought he was gone. I thought he would have been gone already,
especially with the Australia, with the Aussie group kind of going.
I know that one's a surprise to me, and a bad back, and big name.
Louis made sense to me. He's kind of aging out. He's always had back issues, and he doesn't play a whole lot of tournaments, and
there's some confusing decisions being made.
Absolutely.
When the news came out last week out of Massachusetts, I think it was, what was your reaction to the Tiger Rory player symposium and the changes that were announced just after that?
So it's not frustrating, is probably not the right word, but it does seem like the upward mobility in golf is going to start to become limited, which is, a little alarming. I think that it seems like the PGA Tour now can kind of pick and choose who they want to be in these events through the PIP. Like Ricky Fowler hasn't had a great last few years.
Nope.
No offense to him. He's a great golfer. And but if the PGA Tour wants a guy like Ricky, who draws a lot of interest in golf, to be in these new, elevated tournaments, they can just put him in there. And for a guy like me, who's not as well known and, going to be probably coming off the Korn Ferry Tour in the next few years, like, it seems like the upward mobility to get into those events is going to be really difficult unless I make a name for myself.
That's a good point.
By winning a major or by being, active on social media like Max Homa. Like there are avenues and ways to do that, but it seems like it's going to be a lot more difficult now.
God, that's a really good point, and I hadn't thought about it from that angle.
It's awesome once you're there. It's awesome. You
Absolutely.
can make a lot of money, and your schedule's going to be, cut down a little bit, and you can those events as a golf watcher are going to be awesome to see because you're going to see the top 60 players in the world or, top 60 players on the PGA Tour.
Yeah.
And those are going to be events that a lot of people want to watch. But as a player and someone who's going to try and make their profession in professional golf, it's going to be a lot more difficult to get to those events. And it almost makes it like there's another tour. Like right now it's PGA Tour, Korn Ferry Tour, and developmental tours of Canada and Latin America, and there was China. Now it's like this new tour, PGA Tour, Korn Ferry
it's
Tour.
like the elite.
It's this funnel is just getting taller and taller and taller to try and climb the ladder to get to the highest level.
It's funny. If you had asked me 8 months ago, is there something wrong with the PGA Tour, I would have just said no.
Exactly.
Because you
fan.
didn't know any different.
I didn't, and
no one did.
Well, frankly, as a fan, it's frickin' perfect to me. Like it's the full-on meritocracy. I think they give certain players a little bit too long to substantiate a victory from 8 years ago or something like that. There's a few of the minutia bylaws that I'm like, come on, let me see a young kid instead of
David Duval.
Yeah, right, something like that. Right. But basically, as a fan, I thought it was awesome. And you have your majors, you have your not quite majors, but they're seriously important tournaments
high
like the
invitationals, and
yes,
yeah, exactly.
And
Arnold
then you
Palmer.
had a large handful, maybe about 10 events where the big players didn't play, but what it was doing was introducing an audience for a hardcore golfer like me to the up-and-comers.
Right.
And I used as the example, it wasn't but 2 years ago that Morikawa and Matthew Wolff dueled down the stretch into sudden death at what was essentially a poorly attended tournament by the top 10.
A lesser event.
Event. And I watched two dudes, and I was like, wow, those guys are going to take over the world.
Right.
And they kind of have. So I want guys like you to get that opportunity when you make the tour, and I have no doubt that you will.
I appreciate that.
I got a funny story to tell you.
Okay.
Do you know that we share the same golf coach? I shouldn't say we share because Mitchell gets 98% of his time and I get .0001, which makes perfect sense.
If
That's
it
what I
makes
would
you feel
do.
any better, he gives me the 7 a.m. time slot. So I have to wake up about 5:45 to get out to Cordillera. But
I'm an 8 a.m. guy with them.
Okay.
Yeah. Brian Gathright is the coach that we share in common. And I told him, I said, I had a lesson with him just before today's podcast. And I said, hey, I got Mitchell on the pod today. And he said, oh, man, that's great. One of these days I'd love to come on with you guys. He's really going to do it. He's really going to do it. He has full confidence that Mitchell's going to make the move from the Korn Ferry to the PGA Tour. And I have no reason to doubt him. But he says, Jeff, I need you to ask Mitchell to tell you one funny story. He says, Mitchell's the greatest bunker player I've ever seen. He was teaching a junior camp. So okay, do you know the story
I know the
already?
story.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All right, you tell it.
So he was teaching a junior camp a few summers ago, and I was kind of helping out, but also kind of involved in, the learning process of the junior camp. And he put me in the bunker station because I guess am self-proclaimed, and, Brian proclaims as well. I really do think I'm one of the best bunker players on the planet, especially when it comes to short-sided bunker shots. And I think that growing up at Oak Hills and being in some of these bunkers, I grew up small, I was short, I was small. And Jaws, especially on like 9 and some of these deep bunkers, I had to learn how to get the ball up, over my head, over the lip, and I learned the proper technique to actually get the ball out and get it stopped fast. Yep. So he put me in a bunker on one of the practice holes at Cordillera and stood, and he did not prompt and like tell me and warn me that this was going to happen. He stood on the lip and he said, hit it over me. And there's an audience of, 12, 15,
How big
20.
is the lip?
He's probably 3 feet above the surface of the bunker, and then he's
he's
5'8".
Yeah, he's 5'8", so he's like 9 feet over where your ball is.
He said hit it over me, and I was like, ooh, okay. So I did fluff up the lie a little bit. Okay. I didn't want to like have him come out a little low and smoke him right in the teeth, but I did hit it over him, and I think I gained a lot of fans from the kids that day. But I love my bunker game. I love teaching. I've heard from some of my buddies that go there as well. It's like, they won't ever look at anyone else's swing except for theirs until they get in the bunker. If they're having issues in the bunker, Brian's like, watch this video of Mitchell. Just do what he does, basically.
That's awesome.
Partially true, but only partially true. He did show me your setup in the bunker. But since the first lesson I got from him, which was, I think, 6 weeks ago, today was our 4th lesson together, the guy whose swing he showed me was yours. Okay,
we're built the same. We're built similar. We have similar setup.
You're not as short. Okay, you're better looking. You're younger. You're not as short, and you're a lot stronger. But okay, fine. I'm 5'5". You're 5'10".
Well, not on my PGA Tour profile.
What is your tour profile?
I think I said I maybe 5'8", maybe 5'9".
Oh, you got to exaggerate
I'm
that.
5'8".
Man. Tell him you're 6 foot.
69 inches.
So he was trying to teach me how to make the proper turn with my lower body, and was using your swing as the perfect example of that. Okay. So I worked 3 lessons, so about 6 weeks on that. And then I started down the rabbit hole of Mitchell Meissner a couple of days ago, reading about you, watching your videos, seeing some of your highlights, and I realized that, oh God, I'm about to dork you guys out. He has massive ulnar deviation in his left hand.
Say that again.
Ulnar deviation.
You want to kind of dumb that down?
Basically, his left wrist bows extremely hard.
Okay.
And I was like, mine doesn't do that. What if I did that? And so I started screwing around with it, and I brought it to Brian this morning, and he was like, oh my God, what are you doing? That's the best golf swing you've ever made in your whole life.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm impersonating Mitchell Meissner. That's all I'm doing. And he was like, Jeff, it's perfect. Let me show you the video. And I don't know if he sent it to me, Mitch. I'll definitely show it to you later. It's like my whole life I've had a god-awful fundamental golf swing. And all of a sudden, all I had to do was go down the Mitchell Meissner swing rabbit hole.
I'm glad I could help.
No, I really appreciate it, man. Oh, you a beer.
Are you going to get an autograph?
Yeah, I might. No, I'm not. I'm just... How many autographs have you ever asked for in your life?
Oh, boy.
Oh, this is actually a really good story. You want to hear it?
That's it. Let's hear
Okay.
it.
First of all, let me preface by saying I don't think I've ever asked for an autograph. If I did, I must have been 5 or 6.
I was watching
don't
Serena
recall.
in her singles match 2 days ago, and I saw guys trying to like she was going through the line of kids,
Grown-ass men.
grown men shoving hats and stuff in her face, and she was just like, kind of like, this is overwhelming.
Yeah.
I haven't asked for an autograph since this was probably the last time. I was 11 years old. And it was at Oak Hills. The Texas Open got big time.
This is so good.
It was the Nabisco
Okay.
Texas Open. So
Yep.
they had really good players were there.
I think I know who won. But go ahead.
So, and it's Oak Hills, so it's not lax, but if you know your way around the course, it's lax enough. And I snuck into the locker room, and I just purchased a glossy 8x10 of the Shark. Loved him, thought he was the cat's pajamas.
Loved, is that past tense?
Oh, you betcha, Mitchell. You betcha. So I had on my Nabisco hat. I had my glossy. I had a Texas Open sweatshirt, and I walk up, and I said, "Mr. Norman, Shark, can I get an autograph?" And he looks at me and he says, "Oi, how the fuck you get in here?" And I was just, not that I hadn't heard fuck before, but
You're like 11?
11, just wide-eyed. And he's like, "Cat got your tongue," and nothing to say. He goes, "Fuck off, then."
Wow.
So
you didn't get the autograph.
Did you rip up the glossy picture after that?
I'll tell you what I did do. I had Bob Tway sign it
Nice.
because he was hitting balls later on in the afternoon, and I was like, "Hey, did you make the cut?" He goes, "No." I said, "Well, then what are you doing here?" He said, "I just came to pick up a check." I'm like, "That's cool," because apparently you get paid the week after,
Okay.
and it was the week after the Tway Twap.
The Tway Twap?
Remember when he chipped in?
Oh,
Bob Tway?
yeah. Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll be damned.
So I'm a big Bob Tway fan.
We're all big Tway fans. They're members of Oak Hills as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
It all comes full circle.
It does, in fact.
But
Mitch, go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. That was the first Hall of Famer to tell me to go fuck myself.
Yeah, but there's
You've had
more.
Mitchell, there's
Yep.
2 others.
2 others.
Two
Yeah.
others.
Those are being saved for future episodes.
Okay.
But yes.
I'll have to listen in.
Mitchell, I loved having you. I really appreciate you coming in.
Thanks for having me, guys. It was a pleasure. It was fun.
Best of luck to you. You and your brother, which is so cool, are going to be playing on the Korn Ferry tour. Tell me when that kicks in for both of you.
So they actually haven't released a schedule yet, which is really kind of pissing me off.
Okay.
I have nothing to do in the fall. I've just kind of been screwing around, and I'll play some Mondays in the fall for PGA Tour events, but it will likely start in January. It's a 26 event season over, I think they're going to go 10 months this year. Right now it ends this week, which is, 8 in a week. Next year they're going to span it out over 10 months. So it'll be less strenuous, a few more weeks in between tournaments. And I think this summer they had 8 in a row. So
Wow.
it won't be as bad on some of the players, and you'll be able to play more events.
Are you going to travel with your brother? I mean, I feel like that would be a huge advantage to have somebody familiar to go around with.
We'll kind of see how it goes. He did a lot of host family, and host housing this year, which seems really cool. I think it's cool to have a family there who kind of has a dog in the fight. And,
Sure.
Takes you out to dinner. And I'll travel with my caddy. He'll travel with his. And we'll play practice rounds together and, go to a Texas Roadhouse and these, little towns that they have Korn Ferry events in. But
We can't plug that
why not?
because they don't give us any money.
Does Taco Cabana give you any money?
No,
No.
not yet.
But we'll travel, adjacent to each other. We
Awesome.
won't be necessarily staying with each other.
He's got a year under his belt out there. I imagine he's going to be able to share some experiential stuff
Absolutely.
about the golf courses, about the cities to stay in. That'll help you, and I'm sure that you will be able, as the older brother, to just kind of be the maturing presence that you need to be on him.
That's the hope. I think that's what my parents hope for sure. I think that he almost isn't upset about not making it to the PGA Tour this year because he, I think, knows himself. He probably has some maturing to do, and I think that I can help in that process. And then on the flip side, he can help with the courses and what to do in Omaha, Nebraska, and some of these other towns. So it'll be fun. I think hopefully look for us to both be in the top 30 next year and move on the PGA Tour.
Go
That'll
kick some
be
ass,
awesome.
dude.
Appreciate
Real
it.
Best
quick,
of luck.
if you guys play today at Oak Hills, who wins?
I win.
All day?
At Oak Hills, yes.
Do you just rattle his cage
I've
because
got
you're the
his
older
number
brother?
at Oak Hills.
You rent space in his head?
I make 100 feet, 120, 150 feet of putts at Oak Hills most times that I play, and I've owned the alley for as long as I've lived, and if we played it 10 times at Oak Hills, he'd probably beat me 3 times. If we went elsewhere, if we went up to Dallas where he's living at Trinity, he'd beat me probably 9 times out of 10. But at Oak Hills, I've got his number.
There you go.
Love it. Thank you all for joining us.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
Mitchell Meissner. Maybe we'll get his brother Mac on and have a whole family thing. Get your dad in there too. Get Brian Gathright up in there. Have a nice powwow. Go get him.
Appreciate
See
it,
you,
guys.
pal.
Good
Thanks,
luck.
guys.
All right. Well, thanks for listening. That's today's show. Like and subscribe. Find us on all the places that you can find any of your normal quality podcasts. And
As well as check us out at unrestricted.show. You can check us out on the web.
Thanks for listening, and until next time, don't let your meatloaf.
How y'all feel out there? Do you feel good? I said, do you feel good? Come on. The groove feel good when it make you move. Make your next move your best move. I said the groove feel good when it make